Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen May 28th, 2019 meeting. Welcome to all our guests here. The first order of business this evening is citizens' comments. So I open the floor to all of you. Are there any comments?
I was waiting to hear what you were going to say. We were going to comment.
All right, so I do have something to say.
Excuse me one second, Robin. Yes, I do actually. You were going to give me the name of some people to call. You had a...
Forgot, right.
Okay.
And Mona, it's not for lack of Mona reminding me. I will get that to you.
Okay, that would be great. I wouldn't, so yes. But thank you for...
And feel free to send me an email to remind me. I
Okay,
just have
well,
a million things going on, so sometimes I forget. So feel free. So one of the things we wanted to let everybody know is that 2 out of the 3 Board of Selectmen will be attending Dover Unplugged. Which is on Friday night, June the 7th, from 6:30 to 8:30. And we will have a table set up there. It's somewhat a trade fair. We will have sheets in case people are interested in participating in committees. We will have things for people to input there with pens. And it's just to let citizens know whoever is attending, you know, what goes on in town government, what the opportunities are to volunteer, you know, meet us, see if they like us or not, you know, that may sway them either way. So John and I will be attending. Oh, and it's at St. Dunstan's Church.
Yes.
And there's a lot of publicity if you're on any of Dover's social media pages, Facebook or next door. They do advertise frequently. And my understanding is there is ice cream there as well.
That's the hook. There it is.
That's how they got me there. Do either of you have anything else you want to share?
Great opportunity to discuss Carol at that.
We will have, I think Park and Rec have a table, and we're going to share their table to put out information on Carol.
And when will we formally introduce our new town administrator?
We need to negotiate a contract first.
Yeah.
Once we sign a contract.
Yeah, so that's not at least till July. Contract. Not that we're trying to.
So the next order of business is for us to determine the meeting dates for the summer. So typically what has been the tradition is to have an official meeting once a month. One in June, one in July, and one in August. Last year, what we did was we had a couple of, I think it was every other week in the morning, we met to have these planning meetings, which we found was really useful, and in anticipation of having a new town administrator on board, we might want to set some of those up as well, but that's less of a formal schedule. Mm-hmm. So the order of business this evening is to try and determine some official dates for our official meetings during the summer. So Mona has nicely put together a calendar for us with the current meeting schedule for June. What it doesn't have is people's vacations on here. You know, it probably makes sense maybe to try and do on a Thursday night, which is our regular scheduled
Right.
night.
So I took a quick look and I thought mid-month-ish.
I was thinking the same thing.
So either the 20th or the 13th in June, the 18th in July, and the 15th in August would all sort of hit.
That works for me, so.
I can do, yep,
So why don't we do does the 20th work for you?
yes.
So the 20th it is at 6:30,
18.
the 18th.
So just.
That Mona's on vacation
Yeah,
that week.
For your minutes.
Right.
I can watch them. I mean,
Well, we could do it the 11th or the 25th in July.
Either one.
Either one works for me.
Yeah. Okay, 11th is good.
All right, why don't we do the 11th? And then the 15th,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, then we're good. And then, as you said, if we feel the need to do the, extended planning meetings, we'll do them in the
Right,
morning.
so I thought since we have our goal-setting meeting this Friday, maybe out of the goal-setting
Yes,
meeting,
yes.
we'll have a better idea.
Yep.
My guess is we would probably want to do a few of those,
Yep.
but from the
Yeah, I'm
goal-setting
anticipating
meeting, that
there'll be
that
some
would come.
refinement,
Right,
yeah.
right, so we'll do that. So for now, we have these. Also, at this time, I would also like to recommend that for the summer, we go to casual attire.
I always go casual.
I know. Do we have to have a formal vote for this
Yes,
casual
yeah.
attire?
Formal?
Do we need a formal vote for the
Flip
casual
flops,
attire?
flip flops, right?
Yes.
Done.
Shorts, only if it's over 90 degrees, shorts are allowed. So we officially
You drive a hard bargain.
move to have casual attire for the summer.
I second that.
All right, well, you don't need an official motion, but
It's a proclamation.
it's a proclamation. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
here
it is a
deemed,
way out.
it is deemed that commencing tomorrow, it is.
John, it's already happening.
One meeting, she's completely taking control. One meeting. I tried.
Right, so.
All right.
Casual days.
Casual days. So the next item of business is an update on the town administrator search. So as you all know, we voted and made an offer to Christopher Dwally, who is currently the assistant town administrator in Yarmouth. Chris is very excited about the opportunity and was honored to be our selection. He and I have had a couple of conversations. He would like to start in 2 to 3 months, which is just a little too much time. So I'm going to go back to him and talk about having a transition period where we would allow him to finish up what he wants to do in Yarmouth, but have him start in Dover. There are other items related to his contract, which we will be discussing in executive session
Okay.
later this evening. But, I just wanted to make sure that you're on the same page. I think 3 months is just
Agreed.
too long of a period.
Agreed.
And Carl and I talked a little bit, and I think it would be pretty easy to come to a compromise agreement with him. He has to move, and he has a young child, so he has to coordinate daycare, so there are a lot of balls in the air for him, which is why he was asking for a longer time period, and he has some things that he wanted to finish up. But, it's important for him to get acclimated, and so I will call him tomorrow and
Yeah.
work out a compromise with him. Just to give you a little bit of an update, I did call all the direct reports on Friday morning to let them know about the decision we made. And just again, to confirm to them and reiterate that this has been an open process, and along the way, our doors are open. If they have issues, if they have concerns they'd like to address with us, I said that we were counting on them to help us make this a really successful transition. And for the most part, the response was very, very, very favorable. So people were pleased to be getting a call directly from us. All right?
Sure.
that all right?
Sure, you need to identify
Oh,
yourself.
sorry, my name is Tracy Malcolm, and I'm from Medford, Massachusetts. And I recently applied for a job with the town of Dover, and I was wondering whether or not they closed the interview process for the ATA position, or whether the new TA would be choosing the new assistant town administrator.
Madam Chair. Yes to both of your questions. So the process has been closed, and we're bringing forward 3 finalists that the new town administrator will be selecting from.
Thank you, Mr. Valente. So the next item of business we have is to approve and sign a municipal water system connection permit. Sounds exciting.
Madam Chair, Edward and Kristen Dennison, who live at 36 Springdale Avenue, are requesting permission to connect to the town's municipal water system as their private well is no longer providing sufficient quantity of water. And there's our standard agreement that's in your packet,
Okay.
which they have signed and requires a vote of the board and signature as the water commissioners for the town.
So I
Is it
assume
the successor to Colonial?
the Dover,
The
no,
company is it used to be Colonial Water, or is it now?
it's still Colonial.
Or is it
Still
still
Colonial, but it's the town system. The town owns the infrastructure. Colonial provides the
Okay.
water.
Right. So just as historically, the wells were contaminated around the
Yes.
town, so the town put in the infrastructure, but the water is provided by Colonial.
Okay.
So are there any more questions?
No?
All right. So then I move to approve and sign the municipal water system connection permit between the town and Edward and Kristen Dennison at 36 Springdale Avenue.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So next on our agenda is to review and approve the position description for the COA director. And I know, Mr. Valente, you've been intimately involved in this process.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Earlier this month, I requested that the Personnel Board update the Council on Aging Director's position description. It was brought to my attention by the chairman of the COA that the position is currently classified as an hourly employee, and it should be classified as a management salaried employee. The prior position was originally, position description was originally prepared in 2005, when at that time the position was
It was
part-time.
part-time, right.
So the classification as an hourly employee made sense. However, it's been a full-time position since 2010. The substantive changes in the revised position description are the supervision in the new description is at 6 part-time staff, previously it was at 2. The tax work-off participants have been increased from 1 to 6. The education requirement has been changed from a bachelor's degree to a master's degree preferred. And the COA director would be reporting has been changed to the town administrator, but continuing with programmatic direction and guidance provided by the Council on Aging Board. And this went before the Council on Aging Board this morning. They made 2 minor additions to the description that's in your packet, so let me just send those around to you. Just one page. The only change was to the page 1 of the position description.
Thank you.
And it's just, you'll see, deleting, and there's a paragraph within blue that they clarified a couple of the interrelationships that this position has with other agencies.
So, it brings to question, are there other roles that perhaps started out as part-time that we should be thinking about maybe going through the same process with? Or is this the only role?
So I don't know if this is the only one. I have suggested to the Personnel Board that they bring to you a request to do a full classification study, so that's where you review all the job descriptions.
That's a good idea.
Another one came to my attention in the library that looks like it needs to be updated, so I'm working with the Personnel Board on that. But I think it's since the last time this has been done for all positions, 2005, that
Right.
it's time to update that.
No, it makes a lot of sense, because I think it's under, I'm not sure if it's Department of Labor or the IRS code, because there's strict definitions on exempt versus non-exempt.
Yes.
And she would definitely meet the, I can't remember, the salary requirements.
Will be exempt, yeah, she should be
Right,
exempt.
because, she's a professional, she has people reporting to her. So I know there's a whole little
Yeah, a whole
checklist.
checklist, and
Right.
it hasn't been treated that way, so
That's
that
a
would be
pro-
corrected.
Right, so probably just as part of that classification study, we should make sure that we are paying attention to those kinds of roles that maybe have transitioned into a more professional role over time.
Yes.
So are there any questions, or,
No, it's pretty straightforward. It looks very straightforward. It looks
it's a long
wide
time.
and encompassing.
Right, and it makes sense, given the role that's being played by the director. And I like the reporting structure. I think that makes a lot of sense as well, since the programming really.
Can I ask you, Joan, or Camille, about the question, the last line, the reporter of elder abuse in accordance with the Mass Protective Services law? Is that a function that the director has historically played, and is that a role that's sort of evolving? Certainly, I know we discussed it when we discussed the privacy in the room. We discussed it with regards to how the council is viewing the role and the roles that council's playing in the community.
I think it's interesting to see the police are usually in COA's office first thing after a weekend. And anytime they just come in and they update, so there's clearly issues that Janet or Nan work with almost on a daily basis. And I'm sure they fall under, it's very, very private, but obviously, but yes, I think that, and I have no idea historically how that falls in, but it definitely is something that happens today and is a large part. It was actually a large part of why we needed that room to be refinished because, or, to be expanded and closed. Privatized, yes, because we had no really private space. And they always have to go into a private room, and sometimes there are family meetings and so forth. So it's definitely something that the Council on Aging deals with. You'd like to think it isn't, but yes, it is.
Would you like a motion to?
Right, so I'm gonna move, so are we approving an amended description? Or is this a new description?
In this case, it's amended from what was in your book because of the two
Okay, all right.
changes, so.
All right, so-
Approve the amended position
Okay.
description.
So I move to approve the amended position description for the COA director, which was approved by Council of Aging this morning and has been approved by the Personnel Board.
Second.
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody for making this happen.
Can I just ask a quick question? With the change in the director's position going from part-time, does that have any impact on other positions within the Council on Aging? So has it moved from being sort of thought of, or will it be, from going from part-time, sort of this tier to this tier, does that impact anything else? I just don't know really what it would, but just asking. question.
I would think not, if you could, Mr. Valente.
Yeah, this change in itself would not
Right.
impact the other
Exactly.
positions, but if the town does do a full study, those part-time positions will be studied as well.
Okay.
So the suggestion of the personnel board, and I think it came from Mr. Valente, is that the town embark upon a full study. The last time we did one was in 2005, and clearly things have changed since then. So we will, if we embark upon that, we will be looking at each and every job description and classification and make sure that, given the way we do things today, they're appropriate.
Related but not, a little bit off topic, one of your very important part-time assistants is having a big birthday on Friday. I'm not telling you who she is, but it's a big, big change, big number.
Sweet 16?
Well, it's not
They do big parties for the 16th, so that's monumental.
Ice cream.
Exactly right.
We'll have to have a little conference afterwards, John, and see if we need to be doing anything.
So the next item of business is to discuss the office hours for Friday, July 5th. So you're closing in honor of my husband's birthday? It's
Yes,
it's
yes.
the start of his birth month. It's a huge ordeal.
Is it your husband's big birthday?
Every birthday's a big birthday for him.
So, Madam Chair, so in looking at the board's summer schedule, we became aware that this year, July 4th falls on a Thursday. So the town office would be closed on the 4th, and then obviously the 5th is Friday when we're open a half day. So it begged the question, since we expect many employees will take off Friday, they have a 4-day weekend, it could make it challenging to have enough staff to staff the offices.
Right.
So we wanted to at least bring it to your attention. I don't know if there's been any history.
The precedent is at Christmas time, and we did it this year for both Christmas and for New Year's too. We had the day prior was the day that we would do a half day. And I think this makes sense because it is probably going to be difficult.
Well, it's a half day
To
from the
begin.
get-go,
Right.
and most private industry is closing that day. So I think it makes sense to check with Needham, with the surrounding towns, but my inclination would be to close the townhouse. I mean, there just, many people go away for the long weekends.
Yeah,
So I-
assuming
Right.
adequate notice.
Right.
So I heard from Medfield, they're closed. Needham is open, and Sherborne, interestingly enough, only the selectman's office will be open, sorry.
Oh, no, we won't do that to you.
But if there's not sufficient staff, then it would be staffed by volunteers. They actually have to cancel the phones. So they're effectively, Sherborne's effectively closed as well.
Well, my inclination is to close the townhouse. It's not unreasonable.
No,
Right.
I think not. And if something happens, that it would, any calls for the town would go to the police.
Right, so I think, we could put a notice on the website and just let people know that we're closed for business July 5th.
Also the press,
The press, we're closed for business July 5th.
and I don't know if there are other needs for other notices. I mean, the only people, I think of the building area.
I think, yeah, we want to probably put some
Signs
signage
up.
in,
Right.
particularly for the building inspector's
Right.
office.
Yeah. Then I think we're covered.
Right.
Yeah, we'd want to give
You know-
anybody who's doing business with the inspector's office lots of prior notice.
But you
Which
can
on
also,
Friday, actually, as I'm thinking about that,
They're
office is closed
closed.
on Friday
Right.
anyway, so
Right.
there's no change.
So the only other place I heard is from town clerk oftentimes, that people looking for notary or something like that. So
but
a
I
couple
think
of
if you
signs
give
ought to do
people
it.
enough notice, and you can also change the message on the, when people call in, just say we're closed for the July 4th holiday.
Well, we will be closed.
Right, we will,
Okay.
Do you need a vote?
Yes.
Okay, so I will make a motion to close on Friday, July 5th, to close the townhouse for business on Friday, July 5th.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Madam Chair, just for information, I had also checked over at the Carroll Community Center. There are no programs scheduled, either
you.
recreation or council on aging for that day.
Right, I think for the most part, people take the long weekends. Because I know for my work, we checked with other companies and everybody was giving employees Thursday and Friday off.
Thank you.
The next item of business is the town administrator's update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So 3 items to update the board on this evening. The first is the assistant town administrator recruitment, and you heard a little bit of that a minute ago in response to the question. We interviewed 8 candidates out of a pool of about a little over 30 who applied for the position. I had a staff panel to interview 8 of those candidates. They've recommended 3 of the candidates, so I'm now setting up another panel with board and committee members, and Mr. Springett is going to sit on that for the board. I think that's next week we'll have that panel. And then I talked to Chris DeWelly, and he and I have scheduled a date for him to come in to interview the finalists so that he can make that selection.
Okay. In hindsight, I know we went back and forth, but it really makes so much sense for us to have begun the process, because to have him start and have that be the first order of business for him would be it's taken almost 2 months to put or maybe even longer, 3 months to put this process in place. It really is time consuming. And there were pros and cons to doing it both way, but having him involved in the final stages gives him the ability to basically select his assistant. So I think it worked out really well. So thank you for nudging us in that direction. It was the right way to go.
You sure it was a nudge?
Full-handed.
Second, just update the board on the town's email system. So we will be transitioning from our current first-class system to Gmail on July 1st. One of the first things that we had to look at is which email addresses to keep active and which ones can go away, because we will pay by email address for the service, to the service provider. And we had a list of probably 150 email addresses that were people who were either no longer involved in town service, some of them are no longer alive. But we've cut that way back, so we will not be transitioning a number of the email addresses. We're also looking for boards and committees, since boards and committees turn over regularly, to give them a generic email address, so Park and Recreation Committee at Dover MA type of thing.
And everybody would have access to it.
And they'll have access to, or if they can decide if they want everybody to have access or just the chair or however they want to handle it. But we'll give them, each board and committee, a generic email address that can stay with that committee regardless of the personnel who's on the committee.
And that makes a lot of sense. And, one of the things that came up in one of the town administrator search committee open meetings was, does the town have a listserv? Do we have a list of email addresses for all the boards and committees or residents of Dover who want to get updates? And that was one of the things that we don't don't have available. So, that may be something that Chris can tackle as to whether or not that's something we want to pull together, or doesn't make sense. Because many of the boards and committees, the members do not check their first class emails, which we know.
Carl, what happens to the old emails and the other sort of archive material?
So the company that's going to be hosting the Gmail for us says they believe they can come up with an archiving solution for us. So Diana is working with them now on that.
Who's the company?
I don't know the name of the provider.
Well, that was the whole problem.
That was it.
But since first class is going away, it's...
Right. Well, you still have to have a process when somebody leaves, their email should be
Yes, get to archive.
stopped and archived. So,
Well, and the email is not too different from correspondence, where you don't have to keep correspondence in perpetuity,
okay?
but you have to have permission to dispose of it from the Secretary of State's office. So that's something
You were
we
not
need to-
aware of that.
we need to look at, and I know each of the board members have talked about paper records in town. Well, there's a similar issue with electronic records, where if you look at, even in our office, how many files we have on our server for the selectman's office. But many of them are, very old files that can be disposed of with permission.
So I know, like in my business, our email retention policy is after 3 months, emails just get cleared out, and they actually recommend that you don't save emails, they get purged. So if there's data in the email that you need to save, there's a way to save that. However, any correspondence we have with the FDA has to be saved, so if you get an email from the FDA, you need to be able to save that particular email, so. But the most important thing is having an email retention policy, and to have everybody treated the same way. Well, that's exciting. I feel as though we should have like a drum roll or something. July 1st.
Wait. On the day,
On
on
the
the
day.
appointed day.
Maybe, Mona, we can get all of those horns that we can blow and,
This thing's been creeping along for a long time.
but it's happening.
Wow. Keep your fingers crossed, touch wood.
I have faith, July 1st, we'll be up and
Well,
running.
it has to happen July 1st, because
The
first
company goes
class
out of business.
is going away, yeah. Thankfully, they're going away. And then the last item for the board tonight is to give you a draft of the position description for the project manager position, the new position. So this is one that the selectmen had proposed to the Warren Committee and to town meeting to be funded to help town offices with the implementation of new technology,
Records retention projects?
All kinds of
which
projects.
would be certainly part of it, is records retention. So you had designated Mr. Springett and myself to come up with that job description, which we've been working on over the last couple of weeks. And so this is something that I put together from other communities that have similar positions, and then in red is the edits from Mr. Springett, which again looked good and I think helpful, those changes he made to it. The reason I'm bringing this to you tonight is I'd like to distribute it to the Personnel Board on Thursday.
Okay,
Not to have them act on it, because they're going to need time to read it and digest it, but they're then going to have to classify this position, basically figure out where in our salary structure this should appear.
okay.
But I didn't want to bring it to them without the selectmen seeing it first. And certainly if you had any other suggestions or comments over the next few days to
Okay,
send
so we
those
can do that to
to us. Yes.
Can you send it to us electronically?
Yes.
Great. So this may be a good time to get a question answered that I believe came from the COA through somebody on the warrant committee for me. So the question that I got was, there was confusion as to how the selectmen could put a job in a budget and get approval for that job without first going through the personnel board. So the question that I got was this special because it was the Board of Selectmen, or how does the process work? So I'm asking you, should the process work a certain way? Should you go to the personnel board first and get a job description, or do you get budget approval prior to getting the job description?
It is a little bit of a chicken and egg.
Right,
But in this case, both the selectmen, because it's a board position, and the personnel board have to be involved. I don't think the order is critical.
Okay.
You know, with the timing of town meeting, you want to
Right,
make sure you have
exactly.
funding, but at the end of the day, it's up to the personnel board to decide how the position will be classified.
okay,
And they'll, like I said, they'll do that
Okay.
in the next month.
okay, so that makes sense to me.
Okay, that's fine.
If this had started in the fall, and we had developed this in the fall, we
Then
could
we
have
would have
brought it to
gone
them
right.
earlier, but the timing just didn't allow that.
Right, and
We were a little
things like this.
shorthanded too during
Right.
the
But
past
think, but
year.
I could see how this same situation could evolve again, because as you start doing the budget process, you start to think about what you need to get done, and you start to evaluate whether or not you have resources that you need to do that. And you're right, it's the chicken or egg, so ultimately it does need to get approved by the personnel board, but you also have to have the citizens of the town approve it in your budget. All
I
right.
think it's also important to reiterate, there is no employment agreement. There's no.
Well, it was more about the process, you know, does the process start going to the personnel board and getting a job description and understanding what the role is, or does the process start with the budget?
With the budget.
Right. And so, because you could see the catalyst being either of those two
Yes,
situations, so
Yeah,
it really
sure,
depends
yeah.
on the timing.
And when I brought this to the personnel board's attention at their meeting a little over a week ago, they did not raise any concerns with me about the process.
Okay.
They just wanted to make sure before they start working on this, that the selectmen had an opportunity.
And-
Right, no, and that makes,
The
a
same
lot
thing
of
for the
sense.
COA position.
Right,
position,
right.
that You agreed with that.
Oh, so all of that makes sense. So the next item is the consent agenda. And thankfully, to the chagrin of some of us here,
Are you going to try to
we will
renege
not,
on
we're
the
we're not
consent?
reading them.
Can I move to have John read all
No,
of those?
no, denied, denied, denied.
Nancy.
So,
That would be the first usurping of power right there. If she immediately went for overthrowing.
Do you remember he made me read all those?
let the record show that the three of us agreed that a consent agenda was the way to go. So I am merely implementing the process that we agreed to.
I don't remember.
And with that, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. That includes special liquor licenses, all in 2019, for May 19th, 25th, 29th, 31st, for June 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 2 on June 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 21st, 22nd to 28th, 29th, and 30th, and for July 12th and 26th, and for August 9th and 23rd, and for September 6th and 20th. Do I have a second?
Second. You do realize there's no chance of getting invited to any
I did,
of
I got
these.
invited to half of them.
That doesn't lie.
No, really. I wouldn't lie.
right.
There's no chance if we don't read
Did
them.
we do it? We have to vote.
No,
You
so
got
I'm
a second?
voting.
Second.
Motion,
Yeah.
Seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
I still think John should have read it.
Well,
I'm the only Boston College graduate here, so I think I should only ever have to read the ones that are for the Collins Center. Holy
well,
mackerel.
first you have to get the name right, and it's the Connor Center. So-
Exactly, that's what I said,
I
Connors.
thought you said Collins, Connors.
No, Connors.
How is it?
No,
We
you
use
have
those- we use those guys too. you know?
Collins Center, you have them way too much on your mind.
All right, so now I am going to make a motion for executive session. I move that the board enter into executive session under exemption 2, preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, being the new town administrator, and to reconvene in open session only to adjourn. Further, as chairman, I declare that an open meeting discussion will have a detrimental effect on the negotiations on the position of the town. So I'd like to take a roll call to enter into executive session, not to return to open session,
Except to
except to adjourn.
Adjourn.
yes?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Motion passed.